Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to the Hoop Stuff Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac, and today we're going to be talking about the NFL trades and free agency pickups. We're only going to be talking about the major pickups, not like the players that aren't really like big names or anything. But we'll talk about some of the pickups from free agency and the trades that took place so far. And let's get right into the video. First, let's start off with trades. There's only been a couple of major trades so far. But we've seen the Bears get DJ Moore, the ninth overall pick for 2023, a second round pick for 2023, a first round pick for 2024, and a second round pick for 2025. And all the Carolina Panthers got was the first overall pick for this year, 2023. So I feel like DJ Moore was definitely the missing piece that the Bears offense needs because they have two solid receivers like Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney to go along with Justin Fields, and they have Cole Kmet at their tight end, who is absolutely just a tank. And for the Panthers, I think they're probably going to draft C.J. Stroud with that first overall pick because they always struggle with a quarterback. They never have like a really solid quarterback. Like Sam Darnold was their quarterback last year with like Baker Mayfield, but they never really have like a great quarterback since Cam Newton was in his prime. The next trade is Giants get Darren Waller and the Raiders get a third round pick. I did see some rumors that Darren Waller had some drama with the Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels, but we don't know if that's for sure why he got traded. It could have just been because Darren Waller has not been doing as good. Like last season, he was hurt, so he just hasn't been having great seasons lately. So they probably just wanted to get rid of him while they could get something valuable for him. Now for the free agency signings and re-signings portion of this episode, we see the Bills re-sign Pro Bowl safety Jordan Poyer, which is a great piece to that amazing Bills defense. We also see the Dolphins re-signing their three running backs, Myles Gaskins, Jeff Wilson, and Raheem Mostert. And I forgot to include this in the trade portion of this episode, but we did see them trade a third round pick for Jalen Ramsey from the Rams. Next, the Patriots signed James Robinson for 2 years on a deal worth up to $8 million, and they signed Juju Smith-Schuster to a $3 million deal, or a 3-year deal worth up to $33 million with incentives. And they also signed Mike Gesicki, the tight end from the Dolphins, who had a great season last year. The Jets signed former Packers wide receiver Allen Lazard while they attempt to trade for the Packers QB Aaron Rodgers, and they re-signed Quincy Williams on a 3-year, $18 million contract. Next, the Bengals signed Orlando Brown, who is an offensive tackle, to a 4-year, $64 million contract. The Browns signed defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson to a 4-year, $57 million contract. The Texans signed wide receiver Robert Woods to a 2-year, $15 million contract with $10 million guaranteed. The Colts signed kicker Matt Gay to a 4-year, $22.5 million contract. It's pretty expensive for a kicker. I mean, really, if you train hard enough to be a kicker, like you're not really gonna get like hit that much. So it's probably the safest position to be for a football player. So to get paid $22.5 million for 4 years to be a kicker, that's actually really good. The Chiefs signed offensive tackle Juwan Taylor to a 4-year, $80 million contract with $60 million guaranteed. They're basically that's basically just gonna replace Orlando Brown, who they just lost. to who did I just they lost him to the Bengals, so that's not really a major loss for them as they picked up Jawaan Taylor. The Raiders signed former 49ers QB Jimmy Garoppolo, who's coming off of an injury last year. They signed him for 3 years, $72 million, and they also signed wide receiver Jacoby Myers from the Patriots on a 3 year, $33 million deal with 21 million guaranteed. The Cowboys re-signed backup QB Cooper Rush on a 2 year, $6 million contract. He was doing really solid when Dak Prescott was out with his injury for quite a bit. The Giants re-signed QB Daniel Jones, which I did cover in my last video, and they signed him to a 4 year, $160 million contract. He definitely has some potential to be a good QB. He's still a young player, so let's see what he can do in these next 4 years on that $160 million contract. The Eagles signed Rashad Penny after they released Miles Sanders, and they also signed Marcus Mariota after losing Gardner Minshew, who went to the Colts. Both Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox were re-signed along with James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Some great defensive players, and Jason Kelce is a great center. The Commanders signed Jacoby Brissett along with Daron Payne, who was originally franchise tagged. Jacoby Brissett he's definitely not a starter on a team with a solid QB, but we see the Commanders changing their QB every week, it seemed like last year. So let's see. We'll see who gets the most starts this season. It'll be between Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell probably. The Bears signed running back Deontay Foreman and tight end Robert Tonyan. The Lions signed David Montgomery on a 3 year contract worth $18 million. The Falcons signed QB Taylor Heinicke from the Washington Commanders for 2 years, $20 million, and they signed safety Jesse Bates to a 4 year, $64 million contract. The Falcons have Desmond Ridder, who they drafted last year, I want to say, but he hasn't really reached his full potential yet. They haven't really started him in any games because last year they had Marcus Mariota, who was doing pretty decent, but they just lost him to the Eagles. So Taylor Heinicke was a good pickup for them. The Panthers signed QB Andy Dalton, running back Miles Sanders, and tight end Hayden Hurst. The Panthers, like I said earlier, they haven't really had a solid QB since prime Cam Newton, but Andy Dalton is another one of those QBs that's not a solid QB, but they do have that first overall pick. Like I was saying earlier, they have that first overall pick where they could pick five really solid quarterbacks. So I'm gonna guess they'll take C.J. Stroud, but we'll see what happens there. The Saints signed QB Derek Carr and running back Jamal Williams, and they re-signed Michael Thomas for a 1 year, $10 million contract. Michael Thomas did have an injury the season before last that had him out for the whole season. The Buccaneers signed QB Baker Mayfield for 1 year, $4 million guaranteed, and they also signed running back Chase Edmonds for 1 year after they did release Leonard Fournette, which is pretty crazy because he was doing really good, but he gained 30 pounds, and that's just not healthy. The 49ers signed QB Sam Darnold, but do they really need a QB? Because they do have Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, who are two young, solid quarterbacks. We've seen Brock Purdy do amazing last season after he had to step up after Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo both got hurt. I would say Sam Darnold's probably going to be second or third string. It just depends on who they want to put behind. I'm going to say they start Brock Purdy this year, and they go. I'm going to say they go with Brock Purdy for most of the year at least. But for that QB2, their second string quarterback, it's going to be between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. I'm saying they put Trey Lance at QB2 and Sam Darnold at quarterback 3 because Sam Darnold is not that great. And Trey Lance is still young. We haven't really seen him play much because he keeps getting hurt, but maybe he'll have an injury free season this year, and maybe they'll start him over Brock Purdy. I don't know. They also signed Javon Hargrave for 4 years, $84 million. And our final team is the Seahawks, who re-signed Geno Smith for 3 years, $75 million. And they also signed D lineman Dramont Jones for 3 years, $51 million. Geno Smith was a player who was benched for his whole career pretty much, and he was like always just at QB2. But after he got his chance with the Seahawks this season, he did phenomenal, and he did win comeback player of the year, which is pretty crazy. I don't think it I don't think they should have gave him comeback player of the year just because usually comeback player of the year is given to a player who gets an injury and then they come back the next year and do phenomenal. So like Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey would have been solid candidates for that award. But I don't know if like Geno Smith had a different kind of comeback than those two. That's going to be it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, subscribe and leave a like and comment down below and let me know anything you guys want me to talk about. And NBA or NFL related, it doesn't matter. And let me know if you want some MLB content because I might be doing a little bit of that here and there. But like I said, just let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.